A lot of the really great people that I've led along the way have been fairly similar. Obviously not the same, everybody's different. But making sure people are engaged in their work and they're not bored is definitely, we need more energy. We need constantly more and more energy. And if we've got population growth, if we want to reindustrialise, if we want data centres, if we want to use AI to its full potential, all of these things need energy. So at the end of the day, I personally believe people with an engineering background and a technical background should be leading engineering businesses because they intuitively understand so many things. The skill set you need is...
What happens when a technical expert trained in aircraft maintenance and immersed in oil and gas gets moved into the fire of executive leadership? When someone who once worked on turbines and boxes is suddenly steering businesses through mergers, energy transitions and cultural change. Today on Building Doors, we explore the real, raw and often uncomfortable shift from expert to executive. Joining us is Erik, a leader who's been handed the reins in the middle of 13-hour shifts, navigated brand identity crises after company mergers, and guided legacy energy businesses into the new world of decarbonisation and clean tech. But more than that, he's someone who has had to stop being the smartest person in the room and start becoming the one who listens hardest. This is a conversation about change. Personal, technical, and cultural. It's about asking the right questions when you're no longer the subject matter expert, about earning trust as a generalist in a room full of specialists, and building confidence when no one gives you the rule book. Welcome to the Building Doors podcast. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast as a guest. I was really fascinated by your journey and career, starting off in aircraft maintenance and then now general management, like just the sheer level of growth and change of your leadership style. It fascinates me, and I'm very keen to get stuck into talking about your career journey and some of the other nuances like the energy transition, AI, and really uncovering some of those key topics. So let's start with where it all began for you, Erik. So tell me about when you're starting out and embarking on your career. What did you want to be when you grow up?
Originally, firstly, thank you for having me and inviting me here. And just to clarify something, I've never been the smartest person in the room. I've always liked to surround myself with smarter people, which is a better strategy, I find. But look, in terms of my childhood and growing up, I was always fascinated by aircraft and aviation, and originally I actually wanted to be a fighter pilot, truth be known. And then at some point in time, I started getting interested in aircraft and hanging around airports and tinkering with aircraft, when I was a teenager. And that fascinated me, complex machinery, the criticality of getting it wrong. It's high stakes, it's complex machinery. That kind of thing always interested me and excited me. So I embarked on a career in aircraft maintenance engineering. So that was great. A really good foundation, really great foundation for the later technical roles that I've since filled. I suppose one of the things about my personality is once I master something, I tend to get bored. And so, once I was fairly comfortable, I was thinking, what else can I do? What's going to challenge me next? And from looking at turbines hanging off the wing of an aircraft to looking at turbines in a box on an LNG plant, it was a very natural and logical progression. So I quickly pivoted into the oil and gas industry.
Mm-hmm. So if you're the type of, and I'm interested in this, if you're the type of person that, you like that next challenge and that continual challenge, knowing you're that kind of person, do you have people you've had to lead that are the same and you're looking for that continual challenge for them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the really great people that I've led along the way have been fairly similar. Obviously not the same, everybody's different. But making sure people are engaged in their work and they're not bored is definitely a very important part of leadership, because oftentimes very intelligent people tend to get bored if they're doing something monotonous, and if you don't challenge them, then they'll be looking around saying, what's next for me? And if you don't provide the what's next for me, then somebody else might, and that's where you lose great talent.
Yeah. Did you get, so for you, was what's next for you something where you were constantly going out and seeking that challenge? Or do you think people identified that you knew how to figure stuff out and would tap you on the shoulder?
More of that.
Yeah.
I typically haven't sought out new roles in my career. Interestingly, I've hardly done any job interviews. Most of the time what tends to happen is I excel at something. I always put in 110%. I put in absolute top-class effort because firstly, I'd like to do things I enjoy, so I enjoy that, and I like to apply myself, I like to achieve, and typically what's happened along the way is somebody's seen that and they've gone, oh, hang on a minute, do you want to do this next thing which is a bit more challenging, or this next thing which is a bit more complicated? And I've always really enjoyed that.
Have you always been like a problem solver? Were you as a kid into, trains, Legos, figuring things out? Was that something that was always inherent in you?
Absolutely, all of the above, from exactly that, trains, Legos, building things, pulling things apart, pulling electronic and electrical equipment apart and putting it back together, trying to troubleshoot and fix things. I used to build, there used to be these kits, and I think you can still get them, with printed circuit boards and all the electronic components, and I used to build different electronic gizmos and toys and things from the Dick Smith and the J-Car kits you used to be able to buy. I was right into that stuff.
Yeah. Because I find it really interesting. Were you one of those kids as well? So some of those kids, if they can't find it, they'll pull apart things in the house and figure how they work. And then, yeah, you were that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I constantly had bits and pieces of dismantled electrical gear all over my bedroom.
Yeah.
Much to my parents' dismay, yeah.
Look, I think as well, one of the things I want to talk to you about is talk me through that journey of technical leadership, what that was like, and when it sort of changed a bit more to become, less about being the technical expert and more about being the people expert.
Yeah, look, it's probably more of, rather than a cliff face or a sudden shift, it was more of a gradual transgression or morphing from one to another. I started very much as a technical person, SME, working in a team, to then a point where I was a technical SME leading teams on technical work. So, I used to run things like shutdowns on gas turbines and compressors, large industrial compressors and things like that, all the GE equipment in all the big LNG plants and things like that. And then, from there, slowly, it was less about being a technical SME and more about being a leader, and moving slowly from technical problem solving through to more strategic problem solving and leadership.
Okay, now I need to unpack this. How did you learn that? Were you provided training and development, learning? Like how do you go from, because it is a shift, gradual or not, it's a shift in the way that you think. How did you learn it?
I still haven't learnt it, to be honest. I think that's the biggest takeaway for anybody who's thinking about moving from a technical SME position into a leadership position is the fact that you need to be a lifelong learner and you always need to be learning. I've constantly tried to educate myself more through finding good mentors, through formal training. I've gone and done formal training in project management. I've done formal training in contract law. I've done formal training I'm nearly finished an MBA at the moment. I went and did a master's in maintenance and reliability engineering, to sort of further my deep sort of engineering knowledge back quite a number of years ago now. So I think the answer is that you constantly need to be continually improving yourself and continually learning. Interestingly, there's been some times where I've kind of been thrust into leadership positions that I didn't ask for. Somebody's obviously said, "Oh, well, Erik seems good at what he does, and he seems to get on with people. We need a new superintendent, or we need a manager for this or that." And I've sort of been asked, "Oh, do you want to do this role?" Rather than me actually seeking them out. And I've always said, "Well, you know what? That's interesting. It's a new challenge." And generally, I just say yes.
Okay. Did you, and I want to unpack this a little bit because I know a lot of technical leaders. Was there ever times that you in your career resented being a leader?
Oh, yeah, look, that's a really good question. There's so many different aspects of leadership, and I love most of them most of the time. But no matter what role you do, there's always going to be something that you never would have imagined in your wildest dreams, particularly around managing humans. Humans are amazing. They can come up with all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and in the moment you might think, oh geez, why did I sign up for this? Please get rid of all my direct reports. I don't want a team anymore.
It's job easier without people.
That's right. Give me robots and computers. Oh, AI maybe. Look, I mean, people fundamentally are good, and I think at the end of the day, if you spend enough time to try and seek to understand what their motives are, is you can generally work through any problem. I've had interesting union issues and different things along the way that I've had to work through and problem solve, but nothing's ever been insurmountable.
Did you always, when you took on this challenge, and this is just something that I'm interested in personally too, did you have doubts? When you took on it, geez, this is like I haven't done this before, or were you always pretty confident you were going to be able to do it? Because I'm curious if somebody from a technical problem solving background and mindset, because your thinking would be very different to mine. So I'm curious, when you jump into it, is there doubt?
Absolutely. There's been a couple of times where I've had serious doubt. One of them was probably the first time I got asked to lead a multidiscipline team of people who were responsible for a turnaround on an industrial gas turbine at a Woodside LNG facility up in the Pilbara. I was asked to lead people who were, 3-4 times my age. And I thought, oh no, they're not going to respect me. They're not going to want to, do what I tell them. That's a bizarre kind of a proposition. And, I obviously spoke to people about this and they said, look, just be respectful and, people will want to work with you. And it was true. It was all in my mind. And then there was another occasion where I was busy in the middle of the wheat belt in WA, working at a large, medium-sized power station project, and I was responsible for the gas turbines and the generators sort of completion as a sort of completion superintendent and lead engineer of sorts. And I had a team of about 30 or 40 people there that were doing that work, and we had a commissioning manager and commissioning, as you probably understand, is one of the most dangerous parts in the life cycle of a plant because a lot of things can go wrong based on latent construction errors and defects and things like that. So it's quite a high stakes environment. And we had a commissioning manager out from Scotland. And something happened. I think someone in his family fell ill, and we'd nearly finished commissioning one of the two gas turbine and generator sets, and we weren't quite there yet, but we were nearly there. And I remember distinctly the general manager comes into the middle of the field. I was like 10 hours into a 13-hour shift, and he comes into the middle of the field. I was walking from one building to another, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Oh, Eric, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He says, "Oh, Ian's got to go back to Scotland." And I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" He says, "Well, we need a commissioning manager." And I think I was in my late 20s or early 30s at that stage. And we think you're the best person for the job. And I went, I'm a mechanical engineer. I've got no concept of all of this, high voltage transformer soaking and these, electrical protection settings and all of this other, jiggery pokery that goes on in the electrical space. How am I supposed to be a commissioning manager to look after all of this? And he said, look, you don't have to be an expert at everything. Just rely on subject matter experts. Ask questions. Be curious. You'll be fine. And that was really daunting. I thought, oh, geez, that's a big step change from sort of managing inanimate objects to something that's all being energised. And if something goes wrong, it can go wrong terribly.
Did anything go wrong?
Oh, well, nearly actually.
Tell me about what nearly went wrong.
Oh, we nearly blew it up at one point.
Okay, oh, really? Okay, what happened?
Oh, how long have you got? Oh, look, that was a good learning experience. There's some lessons in that, and so many different lessons in that actually. Don't work, 15, 16, 17-hour shifts while you're doing some critical activities like that. Safety is more important than the schedule. There's a whole heap of lessons that came out of that. But yeah, basically we were running around and configuring the machinery for startup. And part of what you sometimes do when you're commissioning a gas turbine and generator package on a power station is you do this thing called forcing different switches and different safety controls. So there's a when you open the door, there's a function that shuts everything down. And so we'd forced all of that. So you could open the doors, you could keep the doors to the package open and all the rest of it. So that was one force in place. And the other thing you do is you line up a lot of the mechanical valves manually for different things as you go through different phases of commissioning the machine. So at one point in time, you do a thing called a water wash. You open all these valves. You basically put some detergent into the machine and some water. You spin it up and then basically you drain it all out. Then you go back and you go and line up all the valves again. You call it doing a valve lineup. You've got a thing called a P&ID, which is basically a schematic that shows you where all the valves are and what positions they should all be at. And you go through, you change the valve settings, you put a lock on it, you sign it off, and you do all of that. And I think we must have been doing that at 8 o'clock at night or something like that. Working very, very hard, very, very tired. And then there was some troubleshooting. Somebody had opened a certain valve on a certain filter, and there was actually a design flaw. It wasn't a design flaw, it was a manufacturing flaw in part of the ways that a lot of the little pipes line up anyway. I won't bore you with all the technical detail, but long story short, it was a dual fuel package which had a diesel starter, and diesel went where it shouldn't have gone and vaporized or atomized, I should say, like basically a high pressure diesel jet formed, and it was right near an exhaust. So we did nearly burn it down.
Wow. Like, so I have a saying at in my team, because sometimes people can get stressed, and I was like, did anyone die? At the end of the day, we can work through with whatever it is. When you're stressed and things can go wrong, the stakes are so high as well. And I'm conscious, like, what I mean, obviously in recruitment, no, they're not going to die, obviously, unless we hired someone that's got a terrible safety record and something happens on site. But generally, if something goes wrong, we can fix it. So the interesting part that you uncovered there is the stakes are so high and the pressure's there, but also you're compounding that with, often in the industry, everyone knows we've got a skill shortage. So people are trying to do more with less, which then means working longer hours. And we all know from a cognitive point of view, our brains, our prefrontal cortex, our reasoning is better when we're fresher, earlier in the day. But unfortunately, it sounds like in the commissioning space, that's not always possible to do all of that heavy lifting work early on because it's constant.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago now. So things have moved beyond that era. You wouldn't see that today. You wouldn't see that kind of pressure today. You wouldn't see that kind of lack of good fatigue management today. Particularly with all of the larger organisations and all the tier ones. They've learnt from failures. They've learnt from deaths. They've learnt from injuries. There's a lot of controls in place, but there's a very, very good reason all of those procedures and controls exist. We need to engineer the risk down to as low as reasonably practicable, which is common language in oil and gas and a common understanding among all of the professionals in the oil and gas industry. So you wouldn't generally find those sorts of incidents happening today, and if they did, there'd certainly be a big, stop everything event where everybody would sit there and analyse it and figure out, well, what is it that we need to do to put a mitigation in place that will stop that from happening again.
What did it teach you personally?
Oh, look, all sorts of things. Just taught me the value of following procedures and taking your time and doing things properly. It was not a nice experience. So I don't know how much of this we can actually use.
No, but it's interesting, because I feel like the biggest lessons people have learned in the industry are when things don't go to plan, because, if things go to plan, that's great, right? But we often remember the things that don't go as we expected, or, where the stakes were higher as well. So.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about now. You've gone into a general management role as well and gone through that transition. What's that like? Obviously you've led in a technical space on projects. Now, what's your remit and how's it different now?
Yeah, so now, the current role that I'm in, I'm sort of responsible for what's called growth in the energy transition for Verbeck. So that's all about basically how do we walk the energy transition journey with our clients. Mm-hmm. There is still a technical element, albeit I'm relying heavily on the expertise of various teams within our various regions and business units to deliver to deliver on whatever it is I end up promising our clients. So it's really about understanding what are the sector problems that need solving, what are our clients' problems that need solving, and marrying up our very deep and broad skilled teams with those problems and delivering solutions for our clients.
What do you think some of the biggest problems are that are going to need solving?
Oh, there's no shortage of problems.
What are you focusing on, I guess, over the next 12 to 24 months?
Oh, look, I've got a pretty heavy focus on the energy transition, and that is an ever-changing landscape. It changes by the day. If you had have asked me 2 years ago, do I think that there will be gas transmission and distribution networks in Australia in 50 years' time, or New Zealand for that matter, I probably would have said no. But if you ask me the same question today, I would say a resounding yes. Mm-hmm. They will be around, because we've now realised that we can generate net zero green molecules using anaerobic digestion and generate biogas, upgrade that into biomethane and stick it into the pipelines. We can also blend that with some hydrogen. We can do all these other clever things to ensure that we don't strand billions of dollars worth of assets.
Yes. Okay. So is it interesting to try and plan for a future that's changing so rapidly as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about it, is because depending on who you talk to and what lens you look through and what angle you look from, the future can take many different forms. It can look completely different. Some people, energy is a funny thing. Everybody seems to think they're an expert in energy now, even if they've got zero qualifications or experience. But, you talk to some people and they say, oh, the answer is electrify everything. And you talk to other people and they say, oh, wind turbines and solar panels and batteries are going to solve all of our problems. And then you talk to other people and they say, oh, gas is a wonderful transition fuel. And then you talk to somebody else and they say, oh, nuclear is the solution. And I love that, because they're all wrong, because the answer isn't that there's one solution. It's a energy addition as well as a transition. We need more energy. We need constantly more and more energy. And if we've got population growth, if we want to reindustrialise, if we want data centres, if we want to use AI to its full potential, all of these things need energy. So at the end of the day, it's a solution of and there's a lot of different things that are going to be in the energy mix, and it's called an energy mix for a reason. It's a transition for a reason. It's not a cliff. And I love the complexity of it. It really is an exciting space to be working in.
So one thing you touched on then, which I want to delve into, is data centers and AI. So one of the things that everyone's talking about is the needs of an AI future and the energy needs that come with that as well. So what are your thoughts around how AI is going to impact that energy space?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think from a national security perspective, if we're going to start using AI quite extensively, we probably need to think about where are these servers, where are these data centers, and who controls them, who can access them. And big data centers need big, stable baseload power. So, nuclear is probably a great solution or a great addition to the overall solution. Nuclear power can be generated safely without any environmental impacts, and it's the ultimate clean energy source. So eventually Australia will cotton on, and we will follow the rest of the world. And Eventually, the bans, I'm sure, will be lifted. It's senseless having a ban on a technology based on perceived poor economics. It doesn't make any logical sense, and any progressive first world country shouldn't have a ban in place based on economics on any technology. So, I think at some point in time, whatever that point is nuclear will enter our energy mix, and that will enable absolute massive scale-ups of data centres and AI, the ability to harness AI.
How are you harnessing AI as well in the business? Are you using it as well as a tool yet in your company?
Yeah, AI is an interesting one, and you've got to be very careful how you use it and which version of AI you use and you allow your people to use. I personally use it quite a lot. If you use Microsoft Copilot as an example through your corporate subscription, there's a lot of data security around what you're putting in there. But if you use a personal ChatGPT license, there's no guarantee in terms of the security of your data. So we've got to be very careful not to just let people loose putting sensitive information into AI tools. However, having said that, from a day-to-day perspective, if I want to write an email about something, I don't have to spend half an hour agonising over the grammar now. I can just quickly plug it in and say, rewrite this in my typical style, and out it comes, right? Simple tasks like that are just laborious and time-consuming. And that's a double-edged sword, because there is a lot of work that you do in your early career to build the muscle that is your brain through, repetitive, arduous tasks that now you won't have to do. So artificial intelligence can do a lot of those things. So my concern around AI is that, well, what is it going to do to future generations? Is it going to dumb them down?
Yeah, and there was a study recently I was reading about, and I think it was a study done by one of the universities about the cognition impacts of AI. And something was, I can't remember if it was between 33 or 63%. I'm pretty sure it was about 33% less. Like, they're showing that because we're using AI to do some of the heavy lifting and thinking, our cognitive and our neural pathways and the way that we think is 33% less than if we didn't use it. So I think you're right there. It's about looking at, what are the broader impacts? Yes, it might make us more productive, but for the engineers and the people that are coming through, technical and non-technical leaders, when we're not doing some of that heavy lifting and that problem solving that you would have done on site, and we're using and augmenting that, is it going to make us less effective from emotional intelligence, from a technical capacity? And I agree with you. Like, what's that going to be like for our kids?
Most certainly. I think our educational system needs to quickly pivot and adjust, because if you're just doing assignment-based learning, there's all these tools that claim that they can, scan university assignments to tell you whether they were generated by AI or not. But the smarter people among us will actually figure out how to get around that. They absolutely will. Yeah. And so, people will become smarter than the machine that is trying to vet whether they've done this work themselves or not. So I think the only answer is to go back to more exams, more proctored exams, and have people have to actually learn, retain information, come in without open books, with, just a A4 page with all their little special formulas and prompts they need to do the work, and actually force them to do the work supervised, because there's no way of guaranteeing how much effort they're going to actually put in and how much of the work is going to be their own.
Do you think your success, so you've had this, I don't know the answer to this, but I would love your view on it. Do you think your success now being in management, if you look back on your career, you talk about the testing of the ability to retain information. Is it your ability to retain information, or is it also that emotional intelligence and the ability to, lead others? Because the other thing is, I think we don't do enough or put enough focus on that with our kids too, because, with the technical leadership, that retaining information is important. And the other thing, and maybe it's the psychology background in me that I don't see coming through the schools, is how are we teaching them to be good humans that can collaborate and work well with others in the education system? So I completely agree with you that it's that ability to retain information and also how they work with others.
Yeah, look, I think to be fair, I retain practically nothing these days, and the older I get, the less I retain. But
what was your name again? No,
yeah, exactly. The emotional intelligence piece is very important, and nobody really teaches that. You don't get taught that in school, so it's all going to depend on your life experience, your upbringing, your parents, all of these sorts of things, and how much you wanted to develop yourself. I think being a good human fundamentally is
nice,
the start.
Yeah,
and being ethical and fair and caring about people. That's important. Obviously, you've got to care about people, but you've also got to balance that with caring about your fiscal responsibilities and profitability and the business side of things as well. Because as a person that I used to work with many years ago, used to keep telling me, because I was too forgiving, was a nice person is not a profession. I always used to make excuses for people and be very probably too fair and too kind and give them too much rope. And I was coached by a colleague of mine he was actually a guy in my team, but when we'd be talking about certain individuals in the team, he'd say, this person's not performing because of this, and this. And I'd say, oh, but he's such a nice person, or she's such a nice person. And he used to say to me in a Russian accent, Erik, a nice person is not a profession. And so now you've got to make that discernment between, looking after people and being kind and coaching, and then, making hard decisions around, actually, this person's not enjoying themselves because they're not performing. And if they're not performing and they're not enjoying themselves, then we need to try and find something else for them to do. And that transition's obviously hard, and you need skills to be able to do that, and nobody really teaches you those. You learn them with experience.
Someone said to me as well, which resonates, is no one wants to go to work and do a bad job. People don't get up every day and want to do that. And sometimes dealing, because I'm very similar to you in that I do sometimes, kindness with people. I do want to give them more of the benefit of the doubt. But then also sometimes the kindest thing to do is to find them a role they can thrive and to be honest with that feedback and give them that feedback. And it's that from buddy to boss thing as well, because you work alongside people on projects and site, and you help me out, I help you out. It's a collaborative kind of environment, and then all of a sudden you're the boss. And so, you've got to, even if you really like them and they're technically capable, if they're not delivering, it's a hard conversation. I think a lot of people struggle with that.
It is. It's tough, and it's amazing. I've had those conversations with actually people who became quite close friends, and I'd had to kind of, have a hard conversation about them moving from the role that they were in at the time. And it's amazing. You're so fearful of having these conversations, and then I've actually seen the sense. Thanks, Siri.
Siri's joining in.
I've actually had those hard conversations with people who have been close friends, really worrying about how is this going to go? Are they going to hate me? It's going to be terrible. And then just to see the sense of relief, like you've actually liberated them from something where they were in pain. And it was almost like, this one particular example I can think of, it was a fellow who I was quite close with as a friend, and it was almost like after we had a conversation, after that hard discussion, he was really sort of saying, I was just really hanging in there because of our friendship. Wow. And I was really struggling and I wasn't enjoying it, and thank you. So, you've let somebody go from a position and they're thanking you. And that's the mindset I think you have to have, is if somebody's struggling and they're not in their flow and they're not enjoying their work, they're probably not in a good place mentally. And the best thing you could do is help them out of that horrible place, as funny as that might sound.
I feel like this is the thing that people don't talk about with leadership, which is, and everyone I've spoken to finds it often the hardest part, is dealing with if someone isn't performing in a role and having the hard conversations with people that you, in many cases, have known for years. And I think sometimes it always feels worse than it ends up being. Like it's before the conversation, the preparation. How's this going to go? How are they going to react? And yeah, I think it's an amazing thing that people are often grateful and they're internally, as you said, in pain and trying to make it work so hard. I've seen people try to work so hard in a role that they're never going to fit. Like it doesn't matter how hard they work because the role is wrong for them. It's not aligned with their skill set or their desires or drive or capabilities, but they try so hard. So sometimes you are doing them a favour, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about as well is now leading a business and things like that and helping clients along the journey with you. How has your skill set changed as a leader over the years as well? That you've talked about the development that you've done. If you look at being a technical leader on a project and what you do now, what additional horsepower does that require now in the role that you're in?
It's very, very different. I think, and back to the discussion earlier around, retention of information versus other skills. I think the skills you need as a technical leader that's got less technical and more leadership is and I really believe for technical businesses it's important to have leaders that have got a technical background. Love accountants, they're fantastic. I personally believe people with an engineering background and a technical background should be leading engineering businesses because they intuitively understand so many things. The skill set you need is very, very different to the minute detail problem solving. It's almost a level of discernment and intuition around, technical feasibility of different solutions. I go and sit with clients and talk about, one guy contacted me the other day and he says, I'm flaring this inordinate amount of gas at a landfill site. He's a chief executive of a big landfill company, and he says, do you think you can do something better than flaring the gas? And because I've got that technical background and I'm in touch with all of our technical experts all the time, I'm constantly on the leading edge of what we're doing in this space, and I can understand it enough to exercise a level of discernment to know what are these opportunities that we should be trying to help our clients solve versus what are the opportunities that might just be a blue sky brain fart.
Yeah.
And it's a level of discernment that you only get from years and years of working in the energy sector, working in technical projects. And it's a very, very different skill set.
I actually really agree with this because, I draw on all the time. So my background was psychology and I went into recruitment where everyone's sales. And I was like, how can you understand people if you're just trying to sell to them? Because that's not solving the problem. And so when I started to realize that problems of having a business, diversification, all the stuff, like one of the CEOs I worked with when I was at Fulton Hogan, he taught me, and I met with him, he now owns Taylor Rail, but he was previously CEO, and he talked a lot about diversification. And I really saw his technical understanding of, as an engineer, that he could apply that to multiple different sectors and industries. And so I will often draw on these people for advice myself. What do you think I should do? Because the technical leaders, they think differently. And I think sometimes what we do in society is we say, leaders, it's all about emotional intelligence. It's all about the people skills. Yes, to an extent, but it's about both. And if you don't have that, it's knowing what you don't have. I know that I'm not the best technical problem solver. I did a science degree, obviously, in psychology, but I drew on the knowledge of people that I didn't know. But I now recognise and see, running a business now, that problem solving and that technical knowledge and what it gives you. It's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a double-edged sword, so you've got to know how to manage that as well, because if you have some technical knowledge in a specific domain and you're supposed to be leading a team that's doing all of the technical work, there's this desire or this kind of draw into getting involved too deeply in the detail. And that's where you really need to exercise restraint and try and keep out of it and don't step on the toes of your team at the end of the day. But you still want to ask questions. You still want to understand. But the good thing is you've got the capacity to sort of understand at least at a high level because you've been in that technical arena for long enough. And I think that is important in these type of businesses and these types of roles.
And I think when you've worked on projects, because it was massive for me earlier in my career, obviously before I had my own business, but working for construction companies, to be on site because you gain so much with working on a project and empathizing and seeing the other people's points of view and things like that as well. I think if you never get that exposure to work on a project, work with people, and I'm speaking also from people that might be listening that are in HR or recruitment or support services. I just found I learned so much actually being physically on a project that you can't learn with being in an office. It's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a bit about Verbrek and the change you experienced, because you were there, you left, and you came back. What's it like going from a business and then coming back in to maybe something that is completely different?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. So Verbrek has, well, obviously there was a name change. We called the business Verbrek about 2 or 3 years ago. It was literally just a name change after a series of mergers and acquisitions. Interestingly, the business went through a bit of a rough patch there about 3 years ago.
Yep.
It was going through a fairly tough patch, and then we got a new CEO, Mark Reed, who's with us now, and I'm pleased to say the business has really turned around. It was in pretty bad financial shape, which is no secret. That's all publicly available information with the annual shareholder reports, to the point where now it's got a really stable financial performance, a really stable base for growth, which is playing into the reason why I came back. So I didn't leave because I was unhappy. I was actually quite happy in my role. And as you get, people, recruiters come and knock on your door and ring you up and send you messages on LinkedIn and tell you.
I don't know anyone like that.
And they tell you how much greener the grass is on the other side. And some of them are very convincing. And so effectively that happened to me.
Yeah, it wasn't me, everyone.
It wasn't. I can vouch for that. It was someone who's actually a friend of mine, but evidently says, "Oh, Erik, come and have a beer." All very normal. And then, there's this person I want you to meet. They're wonderful. They're working in this company. It's wonderful. All true. All wonderful. And then I got into a space where I was thinking, I'm really happy here, but I'm actually not happy in the role I'm doing anymore. I was, not unhappy, but I was bored. Yeah, which is what sort of happened.
Which you talked about earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So, full disclosure, I tell everybody that I'm like this. It's not a thing. If something's really challenging and it's exciting, I'm there and 110%. But if it starts becoming monotonous, then I sort of say, what can I do next? And I was kind of in that space. I'd kind of expressed that, hey, I want to do something a bit more challenging. I wasn't unhappy by any stretch of the imagination, but then this other opportunity came up. There was a lot of different discussions. In long story short, ended up moving across, and it was good, and it was really good. I was there for nearly a year, developed some things, improved some things, learned some things, met some great people, and then I suppose the complexity of the business was probably not the complexity I like. I love the engineering space because, there's so many different projects, so many different problems. The business I moved to was more of a trade services business. So, it was, going and working on and fixing and maintaining things for clients, which was great and wonderful. But it probably a little bit too much of the same after a while for me, and I thought, I want to challenge myself again. And the other thing that happened was we moved, so it wasn't appropriate for me to sort of be there and work remotely. So I had to kind of make a call and move on. We moved to Central Queensland. So I just went out and thought, I'll just go and consult. And so the first thing that happened was the guys at Verbrek called me and said, can you help us with this, that and the other? okay, no problem. There's all these great little things I can help with. And then after a little while, they asked me to come back, and Mark, the CEO, made a new role for me, which is very well suited to my personality and my likes and what I like doing, and timely because the business is stable now, ready for growth. So here goes a role that is about growing the business and about navigating through this really complex energy transition. Again, complex, challenging. I love it. So that was kind of a really natural progression to come back.
Yeah.
Obviously, the moral of the story there is always work hard, always do the right thing, and don't burn bridges, because
you never know.
You never know, and that's a testament to living that way. Is that when you leave somewhere and they ask you to come back, I suppose is a justification or a reinforcement that is the right way to be.
And it's interesting. It's always being, and I do say this, and maybe this is because I do work in search recruitment, but people can be open to opportunities if they think that it's going to take them to that next step, or if they're looking for another challenge. But I think you hit something that's important there, and I tell this to people all the time, is it's this delicate balancing act between progressing yourself and growing, and then making sure that when you make the move that you've exhausted all options with your current employer to make sure that they can't rectify whatever's going on for you. And sometimes they can't. Sometimes you need to go elsewhere to gain that experience and then come back refreshed, renewed, with different views and experiences and learns that you've learned from another organisation. But also one of the things that I always say as well is if someone is happy, it's always worth exploring first. And I know this is probably unpopular opinion as a recruiter, but it's always worth exploring first. Can it be fixed where you are? If the culture's great, if the people are great, have you done everything you can and said, I'm ready for the next step, I'm looking for this, and tick that all off before you go. If yes, then go out there, take another role, and you might come back in the future. But if no, that's one thing I have learnt as well personally over the years in recruitment is sometimes a couple of conversations can change it, and other times you've got to go out and get that experience elsewhere.
That's right. Yeah, sometimes the grass is greener where you water it, and not necessarily on the other side.
100%. So with all the work that you've done, what's the legacy you hope to leave in your sector, community, or whatever the case may be for your work?
Oh, in terms of a legacy, I mean, I hope that when I lie down for the final time that I can reflect on my life and say I've added value to society, that I've added value to the world, that I've added value to humans and people, and the earth and the planet in general with what I've done. So I sort of try and do that every day in different ways, and I think influencing progression in the energy transition for me is good. There's a purpose there. There's something really really useful that I think is needed. So I think and anyone I ever talk to, I say do something you like. Do something you like. You need to do something you like. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have been born in Australia like I am, we're probably among the top 5% of luckiest people in the world just to be born here, and a lot of people don't seem to realise that, but
I agree.
It's true, and be grateful for how fortunate we are to start with, and set your life up so that you're doing something you enjoy. Life's too short to do something where you're not engaged and you're not having a fun time. If you're having a miserable time, you're probably in the wrong place, and you should relocate yourself to somewhere where you can be happy and can be successful.
You can't contribute if you're burnt out or if you're not engaged in what you're doing. So it's a really good example of what's the legacy you want to leave, and then go in there and find where you can contribute and build it. So that's a great example. We're going to talk about the rocket round now. It's a bit of a fun one that we end with. I didn't prep you for this one.
Oh, no.
But the first one, it's pretty straightforward. Coffee or wine?
Depends on the time of day. But,
unable to choose.
Hang on, what time is it? Probably wine now.
And cats or dogs?
Dogs.
dogs.
I'm allergic to cats.
Oh, yeah, me too. I've tried to have a cat, and I'm definitely still allergic, so I've got the same. What is your favourite holiday destination?
Hamilton Island at the moment.
Oh, nice.
Going there for Christmas.
Oh, nice. And what podcasts do you listen to?
Oh, obviously, building doors.
Good plug, thanks.
I have recently, obviously, since you reached out to me, and I had seen one before. So, no, that's fact.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
good.
not making it up. I'm not pumping your tires up.
Oh, thanks. Glad. I'm glad. Are there other podcasts that you listen to too?
Oh, yeah. Look, I tend to listen to things about energy and about the energy sector and about the energy transition quite a lot. Really interesting space to see how different countries around the world are navigating through this complexity.
Yeah, I think it's really good. That's what I love about podcasts. It's short, sharp information that you can absorb within an hour and gain so much in your car or on a walk. Some people tell me they listen to it on a walk. So yeah, it's good. And what makes you feel like you're home?
The odd occasion when I actually get home.
It's not your cat. Is it your dog?
No, my wife and two little boys actually, which is always nice. I tend to try to make sure I'm home at least every weekend, and
nice.
and at least a week or two would be a luxury a month.
Is home not Central Queensland anymore? Where's home?
Home Central Queensland.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was in Sydney yesterday, and I'm here in Brisbane today. So tomorrow afternoon I fly back, and then we're going camping for the weekend.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Hamilton Island?
No. Just camping at a big dam near Mackay. I'm going to get the jet ski out and tow the kids around on a ski tube.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that. My kids love camping. Look, thank you so much for coming on the podcast as a guest. I really think that you were very honest and shared your journey as a technical leader going into the role that you're in now, into general management. And I feel a lot of people will gain something from this episode. So thank you for being so honest and sharing your journey with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And as always, like, share, subscribe, rate, review. I've had recently, and I love it, a lot of people messaging both myself and the guest if they really love the episode. I'd encourage you as well, if you do, please do share it across LinkedIn and things like that. That's our main platform. Continue listening. And if you want to connect with Erik, I'm assuming on LinkedIn they can connect with you as well?
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Yeah, okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Lauren.
If this episode gave you new insights, don't let them go to waste. take action, apply them. And if you want more insider strategies from the best in construction and infrastructure, make sure to subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the leaders who open the most doors aren't waiting for opportunities, they're building them.